All right, good evening, YouTube seekers and watchers. That's what we're commanded to do. Is we're commanded to seek and watch. We're supposed to watch for the return of Christ. If you're not watching, just like in Revelations 3:3, it says that it will overtake you as a thief. Amos 3:7 promises He's going to tell us. And the rapture or the escape of the bride is a pretty big deal. And we're going to know. The last video I did, I put on a little thing where I just was curious for everybody who's from. Wow, I literally had no idea. I have Clinton from South Africa, Terry from Indiana, Pretoria from South Africa, Lauren from South Africa. We have The Last Watchman, which that's a really cool name for your site. That's a good YouTube name. I'm surprised you got that. From South Wales, United Kingdom, Nandini from India. Got Tyler from Georgia, Ayano from Sweden. We've got them from all over the world here. Heinrich from Germany, and Jan from Netherlands. Really, Ivy from Ghana, Sean from Scotland, of course Norman LaBelle from Canada. Really appreciate you guys watching and putting that in there. That actually helps me. I really enjoy knowing that the message is getting out there worldwide. So if you want to put a comment where you're from and help me out and add to this, what we're trying to get out there to the world to understand what's about to happen. We've been watching for this for a very long time. See on my graph there, I've been watching for this since 1988. It's been a long time. Can't say I haven't been upset that some dates didn't come to pass. I really was hoping that they did, and they looked like they would. But I can tell you that every date's been an important date, and when we get to heaven and we see these dates, we're going to be like, oh, that's why you pointed that out. Like the Revelation 12 sign, you know everybody was lined up going, this is it, this is when it's going to happen. And it was a marker point. It was a high watch day, but it was a marker point. And if you count 1,290 days forward, you get to come to I forget. I think it's April 4th, Resurrection Day. 1,260 days came to March 6th, which I had a video that said March 6th and April 4th with a question mark because honestly, and I've been saying this for a very long time, the burden of Damascus. I really believe that is a sign for us. Sodom and Gomorrah, when God destroyed it, He did it. There wasn't a nuclear blast. It wasn't anything. It was, fire and brimstone raining down from heaven, destroying it. When Damascus is destroyed, it's not going to be any question where it came from. Of course, the devil will argue that it was just a natural phenomenon, and you don't need to believe in anything other than that. But that's kind of what I've been looking for. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but it is the burden of Damascus. So I found a little study here. Let me switch the camera forward. I want you to notice something. Now remember, I'm going to listen to this first before I post it because I'll make sure all the audio is here. This thing doesn't let me know there's any audio going on. All right, so I want you to notice something here in Matthew 24, 5 through 8. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. What is the end? That's the very end of everything, just before the millennium happens. He is talking about the very end. Also in Matthew, it says you can't know the day or the hour. He is referencing the end of the world, the end of everything, the end of all that we know just before the millennium, or even possibly at the end of the millennium. We don't know, but he is not talking about the catching away of the bride, the rescue of the bride, the escape of the bride at all in that comment where he makes it in Matthew. So there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. So all these things are the beginning of sorrows. Okay, so let's go on over here. You can see it already tells me that it's in Mark 13, 1 through 9. So I went a little bit further to 7 through 8 here. But take heed to yourselves, for they shall deliver you up to councils and synagogues, and ye shall be beaten, and ye shall be brought before rulers of kings for my name's sake, and the testimony against him. You're gonna, when you are in the in the Mark group, you're gonna be here through the 7 years of tribulation. It's a rough time to be in, but you still have a promise, which is a beautiful thing. I mean, if you don't believe in the escape of the bride, and you insist that no man can know the day or the hour, and you insist on being in that group that's not watching, you don't watch for something that's not going to happen. You don't watch for something that might happen 1,000 years from now. You don't watch for something that might happen 100 years from now. We have been led to watch for 2,000 years now. They were watching when Jesus left. And we're still watching. We have been watching all along. So come back here. I want you to notice, for the nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be earthquakes in diverse places, and there shall be famines and troubles. These are the beginnings of sorrows. So I want you to notice there that we have earthquakes again. We have two different groups that are going to experience earthquakes. You have the Matthew group and the Mark group that are going to experience earthquakes. Now let's go look in Luke. There's a little bit of a difference here. And some spake of the temple, how it was adorned with godly stones and gifts. And he said, for these things which ye behold, and the days will come in which there shall be left not stone one upon another, and that shall be thrown down. They asked him, saying, Master, when shall these things be? And what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass? And he said, take heed that ye be not deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and the time draweth near. But go ye not therefore after them. But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions. Notice how the verse changes from earthquakes to commotions in Luke. What are we experiencing right now here in Luke, just before the escape of the bride? We are experiencing a rash of earthquakes. I think Iceland got hit with a bunch of huge earthquakes recently. A volcano just took off. These are commotions. We're experiencing above average earthquakes right now. Okay? Since 1900s up to, this graph only goes up to 2014, but I want you to notice how it's gone down, and it's going to go back up. But there is an increase, but it's not like major. This is commotions. These are commotions that we're looking at. My thought here is that when the escape happens, that there's going to be earthquakes like this planet has never seen. It's going to be massive. And flip this around. It's going to be quite massive. Put all this back together here. Hold on. All right. So why does it change? Why have you noticed every time you read Matthew, Mark, and Luke, it almost looks the same, but there's this one slight difference that continues to happen over and over again in Luke. If you'll compare the two, and I do, just look back and forth between the three Gospels and compare that one Gospel, Luke, to the Mark and Matthew group, you're going to see that Luke always is the bride, always escapes all these things. We don't get the earthquakes. It says it right there. We get commotions. When we're seeing it, there's commotions. There's volcanoes. There's earthquakes going off. So we're seeing it, but we're not a part of the Mark and Matthew group. They're going to get struck with some earthquakes. That's why in those verses, in Mark and Matthew, it talks about earthquakes. It's going to be enormous. But in Luke, it talks about commotions. We are seeing an increase in earthquakes, but not like what they're going to experience. It's not going to be fun for them. So I just wanted to ask you, guide you to go into your Bible and please put comments in when you see the differences. You're going to see that, and here's the thing. Sometimes it's talking about the bride. Sometimes it's talking about the bride and the tribulation saints. These are the only two groups that are going to be caught up. One to the third heaven and one to paradise. And then there's this other group that's going to be here all the way until they see tribulation, the end of tribulation, or the millennium, when the millennium comes. So there's three different groups, but throughout the Bible, it talks about the two groups and then the one, or it talks about the one group and then the two. So when you read the three and start comparing them, you're going to see a difference. You're going to see that in Luke and Mark, Jesus told them, go into the city, go into the town, and look for a man with a pitcher of water, and he will take you into the upper room. And then when you read Matthew, it says, go into town, look for a man, and he'll take you to a room. No upper room, because they're not going to heaven. They're going to stay right here to go into the millennium. They will live in the millennium. They will be tempted again at the end of the millennium. And at the end of the millennium, at the end of all these things, Jesus' words will not pass away before the end of all these things. And what are the end of all these things? When Satan is loosed one final time, and his delusion this time is going to be so amazing. It's going to be 1,000 years in the pit, chained up, thinking about how he's going to deceive as many people as he can. I think Satan actually believes that there's safety in numbers. It's a human trait as well, where we start thinking, well, if enough people commit this sin, is it really a sin? If we all do it, will God punish us all? Yes, he will, because God is perfect, God is just, and God is not wavering. The law is the law. I don't care how many of you are breaking that law, you don't get safety in numbers. It doesn't work like that. And until you recognize what you're doing is wrong and sin, you can't be saved. So read your 10 Commandments. You're going to see it. It's written like so clearly. And then once you start reading the law, you'll recognize, what can you do? You would never be able to do it right. So first you come from a place where you don't realize what you're doing is sinning. Then you're going to come to a place where you realize there's nothing you can do. You could possibly walk that line. There's no way. It's a spider web line. When you step on it, you just fall through. You're never going to be able to walk that line. It's impossible. So what at the end of it all, then what do you start doing? You start praying and beating yourself and starving yourself and going to church 3 times a week and just minding everything you do and giving all your money to charity, and you start doing all these things, and then you're like, I'm saved because I did all these things. Then when you run out of all those things and you can't give anymore and it's all over with, what are you left with? Jesus Christ. That's all you have. There's nothing else. There is nothing else. When you exhausted every bit of work that you have, there's nothing else. Then you go into a quiet room by yourself, pray for God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit to come into your heart and to do a good work in your heart, and he'll change you. And then from that moment forward, you'll have a disdain for any kind of sin. You'll recognize that it is sin, and you won't want to do it, although you might. But it's different this time because it's something that you recognize is wrong. And then all of a sudden, you're going to start giving money to charities and going to church, and you're going to pray and fast, and you're going to do all the same things the guy just before that was doing. But what's the difference? Now the difference is you're building up fruit, crowns. You're building up your crowns because you're saved. Now you're saved. Once you're completely broken, completely, absolutely broken, and have nothing to offer, and there's nowhere to turn but Jesus Christ. Once you're at that point, then you'll see the other side of it. It's like you go down and then you start going up. It's completely reversed on the other side. So go into a quiet room, pray, ask Jesus in your heart. You don't have to tell anybody. Nobody has to know. And come out of that quiet room a completely new creature. You don't have much time left. We've been saying that, I know, since 1988, that I know of. And I know that they have been saying it for 2,000 years. That's not the point. The point is that you watch. And if you don't believe it's ever going to happen, you're not going to watch. So you need to be watching always. I'm going to end this. Remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to tell me where you're from, I really enjoyed that. I read every single one of them, and I really enjoy that. And do me a favor, read the three Gospels. I mean, read the whole Bible. You know, you're blessed when you read Revelations, but read the three Gospels and see the differences in the three, and put a comment down there so I can look it up for myself and go, there's another one, you know. Never heard about anybody talking about the two earthquakes that appear in Matthew and Mark, but doesn't appear in Luke. Commotions, that's as high as it gets, which is what we're seeing now. So get ready. I'm getting excited. April 4th, Charles over at the Sword of God, they're on April the 4th. It's Resurrection Day. It lines up with just so many different things, blood moons and all that. It all lines up. They're a lot more technical in that stuff than I am. I love seeing the differences in the three Gospels, but those guys over there, they really get into that stuff really well. So we'll chat with you later, YouTube. I hope you guys have a blessed day. Repo Man 64.